Here we are looking at the security configuration page. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the page so you guys can get an idea of the different capabilities available within security configuration. To begin, we have the roles, duties, and privileges. By clicking on these, this allows you to switch between the different security layers. Here we have unpublished objects. When you make a change to security, the changes do not go live immediately. Instead, they sit within unpublished objects. Here's where you can choose which changes you would like to publish or go live. Down here are the action buttons. Undo/redo allow you to undo or redo any customizations you made. Create new allows you to create any new security role, duty, or privilege. Show all levels provides the ability to view all levels of the security hierarchy simultaneously by adding a scroll bar at the bottom. I will demonstrate what this looks like later. Delete allows you to delete a role, duty, or privilege. Duplicate means you can duplicate the current security layer and rename it. Copy means you can copy the security layer and paste it at a later time. This is helpful if you want to copy a certain permission and paste it into a duty that you are creating. View permission displays the entire hierarchy of security for the selected security layer. I will show you what this looks like later in the demonstration. An audit trail provides a view of all the changes made to the selected security layer. Going down here, we have the main window. Depending on which security layer you have selected, this main window will show you all the roles, duties, or privileges within the environment. If you click on the header of the pane, it provides the ability to filter depending on which criteria you are looking for. In this case, if I were to click on Accounting Manager, you can see that we are provided the description of what an accounting manager is, as well as the AOT name. This reference window down here displays all the objects that are either assigned to the security layer or the security layer is assigned to. The plus sign here signifies that duties, privileges, and tables are all assigned to this accounting manager role. Okay, in this section, I'll teach you guys how to create a role. For organizational purposes, I'm going to start at the privilege level. When creating a privilege, you can either choose to duplicate an existing privilege and rename it, or create a new privilege. I'll show you how to do both, starting with how to create a new privilege. So to create a new privilege, you'd go to Create New, enter the privilege name. So I'm going to name it AA_Amy test privilege. If I want to add objects to the privilege I just created, I would go to the privilege I created into the reference menu. I'd choose which one I would add to my privilege. So for this example, I'll do display menu items. Up here, you'll see the buttons change a little bit. I would click Add Reference to add a display menu item to the test privilege I just created. So you'll see on the right, a pane of the display menu items appears. If you have a specific display menu item in mind, you can click on the name header and you can actually filter. For this example, I'll put in contains asset. So the options you have is exactly, is not, contains, does not contain, begins with, is one of, after, before, or matches. When I apply that filter, I'll see any display menu items that contain the word asset. For this example, I'll just click Asset Activity Code. Because we are adding a secureable object, we have the ability to select its properties. This is whether you'd like the privilege to have the ability to read, update, create, or delete for the selected object, and that can be set down here. So I can either grant the ability to read, deny the ability to read, or unset. Once I'm happy with what I have, I can click OK. And that'll add the display menu item to my test privilege. From here, I would add the remaining secureable objects that I would like to add to the test privilege. For this example, I'm going to leave it there. The process of creating a role or duty is very similar to how I just showed with the privilege. To delete the privilege I just created, I would go back and click on the privilege. You see that the options up here have changed again. To delete, I would click delete, and then that'll remove that privilege that I just created. Now I will show you how to create a privilege by duplicating an existing privilege and renaming it. Again, if I click on the header, I'm able to filter for what I'm looking for. In this case, I'm going to look for approved purchase orders. Now that I have approved purchase orders, I'm going to duplicate it and rename it. And the new privilege is down here. It's not necessary to duplicate and rename a privilege unless you plan to change the objects assigned to the privilege. For example, if I wanted to add in an additional display menu item or change the permission of that display menu item. In this case, I'm going to keep the privilege the same. For demonstration purposes, I duplicated an existing privilege to show you what that would look like. Now moving on, I'm going to do similar to what I did with privileges and duplicate existing duties and add in my custom privileges. Down here you can see my two new duties that I created. I'm now going to add my custom privilege that I added in the step before to my new custom duty, test maintain purchase orders. Here you can see that it's successfully added to my duty. Now I'm going to create a new role where I can add in these two new custom duties that I just created. I'm going to go to the Roles button to change the security layer, create new, as you can see, this new test role has no references underneath it. There's no plus sign signifying that an object exists under this test role. So I'm going to click on Duties and then add the two custom duties that I just created. Here you can see that you can add multiple duties at once. It doesn't have to be a singular process. Prior to this demonstration, I set up an SOD conflict for approve purchase order and maintain vendor invoice. Let's see what happens if I try to add those two duties to this test role. As you can see, I'm throwing an error that this AA test role is in violation of a segregation of duties rule, the one that I created, purchase orders and vendor invoices. Since I've already added the approved purchase order duty into the AA test role, I will be unable to add this maintain vendor invoice duty. This error message is preventing me from adding maintain vendor invoices into this test role, so I'm going to cancel out and not add it. Now I added this approved purchase orders duty to the test role just for demonstration purposes. Now as you can see, this approved purchase order has privileges that fall underneath it as well as it wraps up into different roles. So if I expand on roles, I can see what roles this approved purchase order duty is a part of. It's a part of the test role I just created, project manager and purchasing manager. If I'm interested in seeing the privileges that fall under approved purchase order, here I can see all the privileges that make up approved purchase order. So let's take it a step further. Let's see what cancel the approval workflow has. As you can see, there's action menu items that fall under the cancel the approval workflow. You're able to see that I'm not able to access the original role or duty I was looking at. I can change that by clicking on Show All Levels. Show All Levels will now add a scroll bar to the bottom. Here I can go back to the original roles, duty, privileges, and secureable objects. This gives a uniform view, so I'm able to see the security hierarchy all at one time. If I want to return to the old view, I would just click on Restrict Hierarchy View to 4 levels. So based on your personal preference, you can either choose to show all levels or just restrict to the 4. Now for this example, I only added approved purchase order to show you that you cannot add in a duty if it violates the segregation of duties rule. So I'm going to delete out this duty from the test role. You can do that by clicking on the duty that you would like to remove and click Remove References. And that'll remove it from the role. So let me show you some other quick functionality that I referenced back in the overview. If I click on the role and click View Permissions, Here I can see a consolidated view of the AA test role and all the duties, privileges, menu items, etc. that fall under it. This is a single consolidated view that might be a better view for you if you're trying to do analysis or determine what may fall under a certain role, duty, or privilege. You're also able to use the view permissions privilege from any security level. So I'll click on this test privilege that I created and click view permissions. And it is the same layout. I'm going to go back to roles to show you the audit trail. If I want to view any changes that have been made to a role, duty, or privilege, I can click on the selected role that I'm interested in and click audit trail. This will show me a detailed view as to what events have occurred to this role and who made the change and at what timestamp. If I click on unpublished objects, here I can see the new roles, duties, and privileges that I've created. So I'm going to check the ones that I want to publish live. When I've selected all the ones I'm interested in, I will click Publish Selection. If I was interested in publishing them all, I can do a quick and easy Publish All. Now all my roles are live and I should be able to use them throughout D365.